something. But anyway, my first driver I'm going to speak about here is Denny Hamlin. I think Hamlin's going to win this weekend. He's been running great. He has 3 wins, 13 top 5 finishes, 17 top 10 finishes in his 28 races here in Richmond. His average finish is 9.3 here at this track, which is second best among all drivers, only behind Kyle Busch. So I'm going to look at Denny Hamlin this weekend.
Yeah, and by the way, the last time fans were allowed at Richmond was the fall race of 2020. I was actually in the pits at that race. And then, of course, there were no fans. I'm sorry, the fall of 19. The fall of 19. The spring race was canceled last year, so they only ran the September race. So they've only run twice in the last year and a half, basically, here. And I remember I did some radio segments that Friday here, and they asked me for some quick picks on the way out for the NASCAR race. I said, Gibbs, Hamlin, Busch, Truex, any order you want. And they ran 1, 2, 3 in that fall race that I was at a year and a half ago. And true story, guys, I was in the pits, and it was Kyle Busch and Truex 1, 2 late in the race. And Kyle Busch's pit was all the way at the end of one end, and the other way at the other end was Truex. And Kyle Busch is running first. We're walking that way, and with about 30 or so to go, whatever it was, Truex passes them. So my friend I was with, I was like, let's go down there. And Joe Gibbs is actually walking right next to us the whole way down. And I'm laughing because I was like, if Kyle Busch passes him here to go about 5 left, he's going to have to walk all the way back down the other way because they were neck and neck. And Hamlin, Rocky was a strong third in that race, I believe. So, Gibbs Racing dominated that fall race. Last year, of course, Andy, we didn't have practice. We all know how much that hurt Kyle Busch for the entire 2020 restart season. And it's interesting. He started 6th. He finished 6th in the September race last year. He finished 2nd, of course, the year before. He won 2 of the 3 previous before that. So he's been 6th or better in 4 of the last 5 Richmond races. Yet Kyle Busch was outside the top 10 in stage 1, 6th in stage 2, 6th at the finish. So he did get better as the race went on. Andy, who's somebody you're looking at, and maybe your thoughts on Kyle Busch as well while we have you?
Well, Kyle Busch has one finish inside the top 10 in the last 4 races this year. So it's you're trying to decide, what do I believe more, his history at this track, or do I believe momentum? And you see that in a lot of sports. I see it in golf all the time. Do you believe how a golfer is playing right now, or do you believe how he plays at a certain course over the last 5 years? So Kyle Busch, it's tough to say, but I got to look at Truex, who is good at this track and it's been great this year. The last 4 races at this track, he has led the most average laps per race, highest average running position, along with Brad Keselowski. He's just great, and I think he's broken through that wall on finishing races this year. He was stumbling with that, a lot of dumb mistakes. And if I'm looking at who's the obvious guy that I think is going to run in the top 3 all race and who's going to win, I think I got to look at Truex. I would definitely take Truex over Kyle Busch. I think Hamlin is going to be really, really strong. So it wouldn't surprise me if Truex and Hamlin are battling again down the stretch.
Yeah, and Rocky, I'll throw it back to you. I know you probably have Truex here as a top 3 guy. So I'll tell you, I'll make it a 2-for-1 with you. Tell me, I'm sure you got Truex top 3, but also give me your thoughts on Kyle Busch, because you probably, I'm guessing, maybe don't have him top 3. You might. One thing that jumped out to me, though, Andy, too, is that I referenced that race in fall of 2019 that I was at. Busch led 202 laps. The race in the spring of 19, he led 101 laps. That's 303 laps led in 19 in the 2 races. Last year, he finished 6th. He led 4 laps. So that's how much he dropped off last year without those practice sessions. Meanwhile, Truex, he led, I believe, about 297 laps in the 219 races. And then he led none last year, yet finished 2nd. Kind of crazy. 7th and 3rd in the 2 stages, led no laps. So Kyle Busch actually led more laps. So, Rocky, I'll throw it to you. Do you have Truex? Do you have Kyle Busch? Either of them in your top 3, and your thoughts on both, maybe?
I do have Truex Jr. Definitely agree with that. He has 2 wins, 6 top 5 finishes, 12 top 10s, and 29 races here in Richmond. Average finish 17.3 at this track, which isn't that great overall in his history, in his career. But over the past 5 races here, Truex has 2 wins, 4 top 5s, 4 top 10s with an average finish of 4.2 during that time. So I'm definitely looking for Truex Jr. to be up in the top 3. My thoughts on Kyle Busch, like I said earlier, his track history, he's the best here, in my opinion, over the years. But like Andy said, the momentum is against him right now. So he's not a play-on driver probably for me this weekend. I'm expecting him to run pretty decent, though. Definitely top 10. He may squeak out a top 5. I mean, he could win it. It's very possible he could win, but the momentum right now is against him. Like Andy said, one top 10 in the past 4 races. So you have to be careful with him. But definitely looking at Truex Jr. for a top 3.
Yeah, and as Andy mentioned, there's that age-old question. You look at current form or track history, and I think you do both. I think we all agree you do a combination of both. It's a little bit of a balance. And, the one edge I always say in any sport, guys, is the odds makers have to put odds up on every event, every game, every matchup. We don't have to play every NBA game on the board, every baseball game on the board, or every NASCAR matchup. I mean, for me, I'm probably just passing the Kyle Busch matchups for good or bad this week because, like Rocky, like you said, he could win the thing. But as Andy's also pointed out, he's only been top 10 once the last 4 races. So I'm not going to try to guess. I think he's a huge X factor, and I think Harvick is a little bit as well. I might just stay away from the Harvick matchups for that same reason. Andy, who's somebody else you're looking at here at the short track at Richmond?
I'll just throw this out. I don't mean to pile on Kyle Busch, but if you take out the dirt track, Kyle Busch has led 0 laps this year. So
wow.
on anything besides dirt, Kyle Busch has led nothing. So
that's pretty amazing, though. I mean, that shows he has not been in a position to win.
Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that's insane.
A couple names out here. We throw out Truex and we throw out the bigger name guys. Under the radar, William Byron, 3rd best average finish the last 2 weeks. So we have the dirt track and we have Martinsville. He's averaging 5th place at both of those tracks. Nobody's really talking about him, except Daniel Suarez. He's talking about him over the radio, but he's been good. He's been real good. Bowman has been good too. Bowman got caught up in the accident. He was having a respectable race. We don't know how it could have turned out for him. So I wouldn't ignore William Byron. And then I do have to point out just a really sneaky guy. In 2020, Austin Dillon actually led 55 laps at this, and he finished 4th. So if you're looking for daily fantasy, if you're in a fantasy league and you want a sleeper, Austin Dillon could be there. And remember, he's not been bad at short tracks. He's got that history growing up racing on those short tracks, and so anybody that leads 55 laps at this track last year has got my attention. Did great with a 4th place finish. So he's going to be on my radar. I'd love to see a good matchup with him. Kind of maybe one of those sneaky head-to-heads if we get him against like a Chase Briscoe or somebody like that. So Austin Dillon, William Byron, a couple guys on my radar.
Yeah, Andy, I like that a lot. First of all, William Byron, you look at his averages here at Richmond, I don't think he's ever been top 10 like the last 5 races, but that's misleading. He's getting better, as you said, week by week, season by season. And these guys on the circuit say he learns and picks things up faster than almost any driver they've ever seen. He came in when he was like 20. He was still going to Liberty University a couple years ago. Excellent virtual racer, as you guys know, which also I think plays a part to him picking things up fast and really studying and whatnot. Austin Dillon also, I'm glad you brought him up. He's been sneaky good at a lot of different tracks over the last year or so, especially as a fantasy guy. He's almost an automatic fantasy guy for me every week because he's consistent, doesn't have terrible finishes anymore in his career. Not only did he lead 55 laps, and by the way, he started 3rd last year in the Richmond race, so that was fortunate. He finished his stages 1 and 2 second, finished 4th overall. But if you look back, 3 of his last 4 Richmond races now, he's been 6th or better in the finish. How about this? Probably nobody else out there, maybe other than a couple guys, have been top 6 in 3 of the last 4 Richmond races. So, yeah, Austin Dillon, a great sleeper, especially a mid-tier fantasy pick, Andy. I like that a lot. Rocky, I think you got another top 3-4 guy for us, and maybe a sleeper as well if you want to throw that out.
All right. I'm looking at Joey Logano for top 3. He has 2 wins, 10 top 5s, 13 top 10s, and 23 races here in Richmond. Very solid average finish of 10.8 at this track. So I'm looking for Logano to run at the front. Long shot, I looked over him. I know y'all mentioned Ryan Newman. I like Newman to finish maybe top 10 again this weekend. He should have a good run. The long shot that I looked at was Kyle Busch. It's double-digit odds, so I'm not sure if you consider it a long shot or not. It's 10-1. But like I said, his track history here, 6 wins, 18 top 5 finishes, 23 top 10s in 30 races here in Richmond. Average finish 6.8 at this track, which is the best among all active drivers. Over the past 3 years here, he has 2 wins, 3 top 5s, 5 top 10 finishes, an average finish of 3.6, which is the best among all drivers during that time. So be on the lookout for Kyle Busch this weekend.
Yeah, Andy, how far has he fallen?
Oh, how the mighty have fallen. I mean, the fact that the long shot Kyle Busch. Yes.
The fact that we could say a guy the last 5 races has the best overall average finish or whatever at a track as a long shot now is incredible at 10-1 nonetheless. But, that's what's funny, Rocky, is last year we kept saying, Busch is underachieving. He's underachieving. He was still like 6-1, 8-1. Every track he was like single digits still. So just the question though, Andy, is, is 10-1 enough? I kind of know your answer. I think you're going to say you got to lead a lap first before you take a guy 10-1, right?
Yeah, no, it's just so funny to hear how we talk about these guys, but we have to. You have to adjust on the fly like this. Like it happens. These guys go through ups and downs, and you have to. You have to be able. You have to be able to go from week to week and month to month and season to season and know who's hot and who's not. It's just. I never thought that this year we would be saying a good sleeper long shot would be Kyle Busch. It's amazing.
Well, Andy, let me finish up Richmond with this. 2 other guys we haven't really touched on yet. You threw out a couple of Hendrick guys with Bowman and Byron, but like the 3rd or 4th favorite overall is actually Chase Elliott. Last week for the contest some of us are in, like we have to pick 4 drivers, and like my 4th guy was between Blaney and Elliott. I was looking for Martinsville, and I'm looking back and forth, really equal. And of course, Blaney ran better than Elliott the entire race, in my opinion. Finishes 11th. I think Elliott snuck out like what it was, a 2nd place finish or something. He hasn't been dominant this year despite being the Cup champion, but he's always in contention. So give me your thoughts on Elliott. And the other guy I got to throw out real quick too is Keselowski's like 2nd overall in the odds. He's been fantastic along with Logano. Rocky mentioned Logano, so I wanted to bring up Keselowski as well. By the way, he did win the fall race last year despite starting 9th. He was first at second stage, and then won the race as well. He's been top 7 the last 3, top 9 the last 5 at Richmond. So Andy, Elliott or Keselowski, obviously in contention, I guess.
Yeah, they're always going to be there. You can't be a guy with the car and the talent like Chase Elliott, but he just hasn't been consistent. I haven't seen the consistency from him. And Brad, got caught up in the accident. Brad's always going to be there. I call him the ninja of NASCAR. It's just like, where did Brad come from? Like he was running 12th all day, and all of a sudden, at the end of stage 2, he's up in 5th, and all of a sudden there's a late yellow flag, and he's in 3rd, and he's got the good line on the restart. So you can't ever rule these guys out, but at the same time, I just haven't seen the finishes from them. They're hard to put money on because the books are placing them as favorites, as they should be. But at the same time, I haven't seen the consistency. It's almost like Chase Elliott's got a little bit of the championship hangover. Brad's kind of stumbling out of the gate. They'll get it together. They're just not going to get my money this week.
Yeah, and both Elliott and Keselowski kind of correlate to one other guy I want to mention, and that's Ryan Blaney. He's a guy, as I said earlier, was very strong in Martinsville, but found a way to take a 3rd-place car and finish 11th, as he often does, with a late pit road speeding penalty with 47 laps to go. And I bring that up because Elliott is kind of like a Blaney still. He's a young driver. He's definitely more inconsistent than guys like Harvick or Keselowski, who, as you said, is like the ninja. He just finds a way to be top 10. I liked him a lot last week in Martinsville. He did get caught up in the wreckage stuff early. So it was a very misleading, poor result. He was running strong with Logano and Blaney as teammates before that. We're going to transition over to a free head-to-head, Rocky, because I know you've got Blaney in this one, and you can talk a little bit more about him. First of all, Rocky Atkinson, sportsmemo.com. He's had some bad beats this year. I think that's a good thing if you haven't got on board yet. It's a bad thing if you've been on board, but if you haven't got on board yet, it's a good thing because that means you have missed out on some bad luck. You're going to catch the good luck, and you're going to catch all the good, easy winners. When you hit over 60% over 150 NASCAR picks the last few years, you know you're doing something right. So this is a great time to get on board. I know Rocky and Andy hate it when those cut tires come in the final lap, but I actually think that means it's a buy sign right now for both these guys. So once again, Rocky Atkinson, sportsmemo.com, Andy Lang at WagerTalk.com. And Rocky, give us a little sample, maybe a free head-to-head, something you're looking at this week.
All right, looking at Kevin Harvick to finish ahead of Ryan Blaney here this weekend. Harvick has 3 wins, 15 top 5 finishes, 26 top 10 finishes in 39 races here in Richmond. His average finish is 9.7 at this track, which is 3rd best among all active drivers. Harvick has 5 top 10 finishes the past 5 races here with an average finish of 4th. Ryan Blaney has no wins, no top 5 finishes, no top 10 finishes in 9 races here in Richmond. Average finish is 24.8 at this track, which has to be one of his worst tracks on the circuit. Blaney's best finish here at this track is 17th. So I'm going to play Kevin Harvick over Ryan Blaney this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, Rocky, you've got several things working for you there. I mean, first of all, the track histories favor Harvick heavily. You've also got that consistency factor we just talked about with Keselowski and Elliott and Blaney. You've got Harvick, who's not been great this year, but still is always consistently like a top 10 car. He just finds a way to do it. Whereas Blaney was very strong last week and still couldn't be a top 10 car. Now he's on a track in which he's much weaker. It's strange to me, though, guys, that he's not better at Richmond because he's been very good at Martinsville. I liked him last week, as I said, and he's been okay at Bristol as well, I believe. But Richmond is a unique track. It's the only 3/4-mile track on the circuit. So it's unlike really any other track, including the 2 half-mile short tracks that we've talked about. So I need to see something from Blaney. This will probably be one of the few weeks that I'm not on the Blaney bandwagon as well. Andy Lang, WagerTalk.com. No more cut tires for you, my man. They say it comes in 3s, right? Third time was not the charm. Let's hope it comes in 3s and it's done, though. All seriousness, I really do think it's a great time to jump on both Rocky and Andy's best bet packages for NASCAR. And don't try to guess which week you're going to have a bad beat or a good luck. I mean, get the whole season. We've got like 30 races left, 28, 29 races left. A lot of money to be made still in NASCAR at sportsmemo.com and wagertalk.com. Andy, you've got a prop here, an over-under prop. I'm excited. We haven't done that yet this season. Give it to us.
Yeah, I like your promo, Steve, where you were like, well, it's been bad if you've been on these guys.
It's been great if you haven't signed up yet.
Thank you.
And I'm only marketing to the people that haven't signed up yet, so it's the perfect segue.
That's great. No, we're all very aware of what happened the last couple of weeks, Steve. We don't need to why dig up the past. As Mark McGuire would say, I'm not here to talk about the past. Let's talk a prop. I found this one on DraftKings. I think this is a really interesting prop. I did really good with the will a driver lead stage 1 and 2 last year until DraftKings took it away from me. So why not go back to this one? How many cars will finish on the lead lap? Over or under 18.5? I've got under. So all it takes is a long green flag run at these short tracks where a leader gets out and puts a ton of people a lap down. So in the 2020 race, do you know only 12 cars finished on the lead lap at this track? And in 2019, there were 12 and 16 drivers on the lead lap. And in the second race in 2018, there were only 13 racers on the lead lap. So this is 4-0 at this track. And last week, in a race full of chaos with plenty of cautions and plenty of opportunities for waiver rounds and lucky dogs, 18 finished on the lead lap. So under would have cashed. On these short tracks, all it takes is one huge green flag run, and that leader, whether it's a Truex or a Hamlin or a Harvick, you can see these guys when they get the setup going, they can put a ton of guys lap down, and it's really hard to get back. So I'm going to play under 18.5 drivers to finish on the lead lap.
Yeah, and those of you watching this live on Friday night, 6:30 Eastern here on Wager Talk TV, play that now because I guarantee you some others are going to play it as well when they watch the replay this weekend here on Wager Talk TV. And Andy, as you mentioned, at the beginning of the show, I mentioned how there's not as many cautions as when I went to this race 15 years ago. You're spot on about that handicap. The last several races I've gone to at Richmond, it's amazing how few crashes there are. When I first started going in 2001 was my first race here, especially turn 3. I remember Michael Waltrip on fire one time, and I was standing right down there. I'd been walking around, and it crashed right on the wall next to me. I can still vividly remember that. We don't see that anymore. There's hardly any crashes. These guys get around all these tracks better than before. So I think the odds makers are sleeping a little bit on these props for that reason. They're looking at a large sample of races where you really have to look at recent history. And then another little sneaky factor, last week, Martinsville, 37 cars in the race. It used to always be 40. Just a few years ago, it was 42 or 43, I believe. So also, if they're going too far back, you're talking about an extra 6 or 7 cars in the field that aren't there anymore. So that automatically makes it less likely you're going to have as many cars in the lead lap. And it's a short track on top of that, as you said, being just 3/4 miles. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And didn't know what the numbers were. Now that you've thrown them out, I like it even more because I like the theory behind it. And then the math adds up. And I'm telling you guys, we're seeing less cautions, less crashes. I used to go take a little hot dog break from laps 300 to 400 because it just got boring. Did that a couple years ago. Like 30 minutes later, there's like 30 to go. I was like, what the hell? It's like they just don't crash anymore. And I think that makes a lot of sense. So under 18 and a half cars to finish on the lead lap at Richmond. Play that sooner than later, folks. It's not going the other way. That's going to be a sharp money prop. And Rocky, we were joking before the show that you had Harvick over Blaney. Blaney's been really strong this year, but he's been awful at Richmond, like you said. And this has been a really good track for Harvick. So Rocky Atkinson, sportsmemo.com has Harvick over Blaney. Find him on Twitter at RocketManSports. Andy Lang, WagerTalk.com has under 18 and a half cars to finish on the lead lap for the race. And I think that'll probably go lower as that's a sharp money prop in my opinion. Myself, Steve Merril, off to over a 60% baseball start at WagerTalk.com. NBA also available daily. Playoffs right around the corner. Quick reminder here. Watch WagerTalk TV every day for all the sports you love. We have hockey, basketball, baseball every day. We have NASCAR here on Fridays. Andy also does some great prop content on a daily basis. Rocky's a hockey guy, I believe, as well. A little baseball thrown in there also with his basketball. Andy also does golf. We have a golf show weekly here on WagerTalk TV as well. A great time of the year to be playing all sports, guys, and a great time to go to sportsmemo.com and WagerTalk.com right now for some fantastic all sports specials. Also, be sure to subscribe to WagerTalk TV. That helps us bring this content to you free each and every day and add content as well. Please give it a thumbs up if you like the content. And most importantly, leave a comment below here on YouTube. Let us know your thoughts on the show, but more importantly, let me know your top 3 predictions for Richmond this weekend. And by the way, this is a Sunday afternoon race. It's no longer the Saturday night race like it was for so many years. Sunday afternoon around 3 p.m. Eastern, as we've seen most of these races. Let us know your top 3 predictions for the Sunday afternoon Richmond race. And then be sure to check back next Friday night right here on WagerTalk TV for more Life in the Fast Lane. For Rocky Atkinson, Andy Lang, I'm Steve Merril wishing you good luck this weekend. Thanks for watching, everyone.